and social media and kind of the connection between digital marketing, social media, and building an e-commerce base for your company. And we've been really spending a lot of time kind of more talking about in some generalities about what companies should be doing or thinking about in some past chats that we've had. And today we're also going to try to just start to mention some specific companies and examples that people can take a look at, either to get inspiration, look at some examples and stuff like that. So, awesome.
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So just curious if you have any like particular thoughts that you want to kind of get us started on talking about e-commerce and social media, if there's anything top of mind that you particularly wanted to make sure we hit on.
Yeah, well, I think with social media, there's just so much opportunity. Like, I'm still surprised with how many clients will come to us and say, like, "Oh yeah, no, our customers, they don't click on Facebook ads, or like they're not looking at Instagram." Like they believe that their customers aren't behaving in a certain way on social media. And I really feel like if you have the right ad with the right message to the right audience, you're absolutely going to be able to figure out a profitable advertising model on social media. So I just really want to challenge every company to think about how they can embrace social media advertising, even if their gut instinct is telling them that it might not be the case.
And would you say that that holds true for B2B companies as well, in your experience?
I think so. I mean, I think like that's a perfect example of like how you have to really think about what your customer is wanting from your business and how you can earn that relationship. So whether it's offering an invitation that you're promoting on social media to an upcoming webinar, or if it is a video of an expert in the company talking about a certain problem that your ideal customer typically faces. Like, even though your audience might be really really small, if you can get that targeted message in front of the right people, you're going to be able to raise awareness about your brand through social.
Yeah, awesome. And I think too, sometimes people tend to think about business to business sales as not being human driven, but they're doing business with companies. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're doing B2B sales, but we're still relationship based. We're still, trying to, talk to people and connect with people. And I think really any B2B company is the same. You're still dealing with a human on the other end. And I feel like, you know, over the past few years, there's been a lot more blurring between our personal lives and our business lives. And so people are on social network for their business, or they're thinking about the business when they're interacting on social. So I do think that there's a lot closer affinity than maybe people like to think, or maybe people like to think that we're more compartmentalized than we are, but it just hasn't been at least our experience that that's the case, that people are pretty social no matter what. And
Mhm. Yeah, I think the more that I'm not sure why this is, that with B2B companies, they seem to be less willing to put the people behind the business like front and center when it comes to advertising and marketing versus, with e-commerce, it's a lot about like product demos and storytelling. And if I think B2B can learn a lot from how e-commerce companies are doing their marketing, because it will certainly, continue to grow. Social's not going away.
yeah, for sure. So when you're thinking about giving companies tips on really how to find and engage those customers in social media and really help make them feel like they might have some ownership in the brand or are part of a community, what tips do you have for people on how to think about that?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to put out quality content that your ideal customer identifies with. So, resist the urge to post every day if you can only, you know, one in every five posts is what you would consider really quality post. So absolutely quality over quantity. And another benefit to that is if you're concerned about having less of frequency on social media, you can always promote those quality posts. So not only are you getting the organic reach from that post, but you can also spend a little bit of money to get it out to a larger audience.
Yeah,
And
that makes a lot of sense to really double down and invest on your highest quality content just to make sure that you're getting it to the people who you need to see it. Yeah.
yeah, and make it not feel like an ad. It's really important that you are conversational on social media and have that human voice and that tone that is consistent with your brand. Another really important thing is just like commenting on the comments on your posts. So if you do have customers that engage, um, like their comment and then reply to their comment and have that kind of quick response and interaction, and that just really will strengthen the bond between your posts and your followers, and start to create like a real true human connection.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how much people really do value that kind of like the brand is interacting with me. Um, and I think it's usually you can see kind of two sides of it. One is people actually expect it, that it's not a nice to have, it's a must have, that they're posting with the expectation of some kind of response or interaction. And then I think that there's also the piece of it that's like, oh, the brand paid attention to me. It's almost like this like validation, especially if you have an affinity for the brand, you like what they stand for. It becomes kind of like again, we started off with the word co-creation, but it just kind of like really does strengthen that feeling of like, ooh, this is a community that I'm part of, or I'm validated in some way by this brand. And it's definitely kind of an interesting psychology that I'm sure somebody is having fun delving into.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique experience, with that immediacy connecting with a brand on social. Like you don't get that same feeling of like, oh, they care about me when you're on the website. Like if you're shopping on the website, it feels like you're interacting with a tool versus with social, you're interacting with a person.
Yeah, yeah, that's really true. One of the examples I wanted to bring up is a company called Beard Brand, and they have a really interesting positioning where they're specifically they've kind of defined their market as men who have beards or facial hair and really kind of like care about it as kind of part of their like aesthetic and personality and lifestyle. And it's interesting that they've been very selective about how they participate on social media, even though they do Facebook and they do Instagram. They've really doubled down on YouTube in terms of building an audience, and I think they've got uh, like 1.5 million followers or subscribers on YouTube. But I just kind of want to like share, like one of the things that they like is from the get-go, their brand is very interactive in terms of pulling people into the community. Like you take a quiz, they've named their audience. So like if you like this brand, you are a beardsman. Okay. Um, and they have like this texting style for personalized consulting. Like they have a lot of interactivity from the get-go on their website. So even though this is an e-commerce site, you can't, when you land on the page, you don't even see product. They're really talking to like who you are. And I think that that's like a really smart way to engage people and start to build an audience. And only once you kind of go down lower do you start to actually see product and what they sell. And obviously they have like articles and stuff.
Yeah, this is
But
really nice.
yeah, if we take a look at their YouTube, yeah, they've got 1.5 million subscribers, and they just put out a ton of content that mostly, again, is not about their products. It's about how to style your beard, kind of looks into different barber shops and showcasing different barbers, but really like a sense of like creating a community. And then also really leveraging YouTube as that kind of how-to search engine, which it does so well. So many people are going on YouTube saying, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" And they've really leaned into that and just created a ton of content. Um, and people are definitely responding, and obviously that content is going to directly lead back to e-commerce sales, that's the idea, is that it's going to lead to a sale. um, but I think that one of the things that they did really well was picking one platform, talking about quantity over quality. I think sometimes that's in how much you post, but I think also it's about the platforms that you choose to really engage and invest in. So if you went to their Facebook um, profile, maybe they have like 100,000 followers or something like that, you would think like, oh, this is not a big company, or, they're not doing that well. But it's really that they decided that their audience was on YouTube. They needed video content, and that was really where they were going to shine. So I thought that was an interesting example of um, how some focus in your social can really help to build a strong e-commerce brand.
Yeah, I love that. I love how it has so many different examples and like helpful guides and tools and how to's. Like, I think the more value you can give your customer, the more likely they're going to stay engaged and not feel like they're being sold to.
Yeah, and even if I think in their mission of the company, they even say that, like, their mission is to provide these products, but also great content, really high quality content, and I think it's something that you don't often hear from product companies, that they actually have, like, a mission around quality content. But I do think that users can tell, like, your audience can tell if the content matters to you, or if it's just a means to an end. If I'm just trying to, like, put it out there, use it as an ad, drive you to sale, versus am I actually trying to give you value in this? And consumers are pretty savvy at this point to be able to tell the difference between the two.
My example, let's see if I can share my screen. Here we go. Um, is also an example of a use of video. This is a company called Upright, which makes this little device that you stick on your back that encourages you to sit up straight. So if you're slouching, it will buzz, and then you'll be reminded to have better posture. And I chose this because I swear I've seen this ad like 100 times on Instagram. And every time I watch it, there's just something about how I couldn't find an example. Of course, like when I look for the ad on Instagram, I can't find it, but I can describe it to you. It's basically a woman like this, and they just show her slouching and then like gently sitting up straight. And it's her working at her computer. And um, I think their use of video and ads of that simple like 10-second slouching and sitting up um, really really shows you what the product does. And the way that they advertised to me, I'm assuming that they showed someone who was similar to my age working at a computer, because they knew that that is what my lifestyle is like, is
Right.
being at work and at my computer. So I, it's rare when you find something where like a brand where they're directly selling to you, but you are like, you're like, "Up, you got me." Like, I am your customer. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them for their continuous advertising, that seems really relevant to me. I still haven't purchased one yet, but I'm sure that when I check Instagram again, I will get another ad because they picked up on my voice talking about my posture.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great example. The other company that I've had that same experience with is, do you know Rothy's shoes?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely, like, stalked me on Instagram for a while, and then finally I bought the shoes and then bought more of them. Like, they're great. Yeah, made if people aren't familiar with them, they're, like, made from recycled water bottles, and again, like, for me, they, like, spoke to me and like, "Oh, you can throw them in the washing machine," and, but they're still really cute, and, like, kind of like my life right now, especially with a little guy at home and a business to run, is, how easeful can I make my life? And that was sort of like what they spoke to, was like, have this great style, but also easy. And then also, oh, and they're made of water bottles. It was kind of like there's no reason not to get them. And yeah, their content is really strong. I felt like their Instagram ads were really strong and definitely kind of like brought you right into it. And it didn't take too long before I hit that little shop now button.
Do you have any idea of how many ads you had to see before you clicked to purchase?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know how many ads it was, but it was definitely probably like 3 months or so of
Mhm.
seeing ads for them. It took me, it definitely like was over months that I was seeing the ads. And I remember the first time I saw them, I was kind of like, I saw the ad and then I was trying to remember what the company was. And I'm like, oh, they had those cute shoes and I can like picture them in my mind, but I can't remember the company's name. And then lo and behold, they like popped back up into my feed. And I was like, yeah, it was one that you were actually like excited, or I was excited to see back in my feed because I was like, ooh, I kind of wanted those, but I wasn't quite ready to buy. So um, but yeah, it was one of, I knew that I was being targeted, and then when I finally, like, hit purchase, I was having some of those same meta questions of, like, "How long did it take me?" "What did speak to me about this?" It's funny when you become your own meta case study that
Yeah.
you're, like, trying to figure out for your clients how to recreate what these people did to you.
I think it's a good example too of how you have to have a long-term view of these campaigns. Like it's not just like a 1 week test and like, oh, I'm done with that audience. I can move on. Like, in the Rothy's example, they served you multiple ads with multiple benefit statements and over the course of 3 months, like continuously paid to get those ads in front of you. So I think I heard some stat that like it used to be 15 times before someone had to see your brand to make a purchase and now it's like up to 40 or 50 times.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, I'm sure I probably saw, yeah, 30, 40, 50 ads from them. It was a lot. They were pretty relentless, but it paid off. Not only did I buy them once, but I bought them again. Now they don't have to pay to get me anymore. I follow
Yeah.
them on Instagram. So I'm kind of like, check, move on to whoever's next. Um, but yeah, I think that it's such a good point because I do think that um especially for new brands or brands trying to break into a new market, I do think that people need to realize that we are hardwired to reject brands that are new, are unproven. And I may have even said this before, but like people will choose a brand that has a terrible reputation over because they know it over a brand that they know that they don't know. So it's like the fear of the unknown is greater than unknown deficit or bad actor or whatever. Yeah, and they've done tons of even like they did some peanut butter tasting study where if people were told that like a bad tasting peanut butter was a brand that they recognize, like oh, it's Skippy's or whatever, they would prefer it
Hmm.
to a better tasting peanut butter that was a no name brand. And
Interesting.
I just find that fascinating, like that we are that susceptible to some of those inherent biases that are just like neurologically imprinted that we need to kind of fear what's new. Um, but that people need to understand that that's something that they need to overcome. Like once I could recall the name of Rothy's and they weren't that like, oh, what was that shoe company that showed up in my feed and I saw some people out wearing them. So I'm like, oh, other people I know are buying these shoes. Finally it was kind of like, okay, now I'm going to make my purchase. But that does not happen overnight. It does take some persistence. But if you know your audience and you know that you fit into their life and you know you have confidence in your product, then yeah, I think it's worth kind of sticking it through and making sure that you're really giving your ads and your content like a chance to do their work.
Yeah, and I think for those brands that are new that don't have like the 100,000 likes or even the 10,000 likes, integrating customer testimonials and 5-star reviews into ad copy can help give that buyer confidence when like you can't prove it with the amount of likes that you have on your page.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you'll even see the like 5 people bought this today, or, just again, that like little bit of consumer confidence that like this is something that people are actively selecting. So it's okay for me to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Um, what about the use of influencers in um, marketing, social, e-commerce? Like, how do you see that playing out most recently?
Well, I think influencers are a really great opportunity for companies that are struggling with that content creation. Like when they think about producing quality content, they're like just overwhelmed by the thought of that. And you can think of influencers in lots of different ways. There are the mega influencers, which are over 100,000 followers, and then you can get down to the micro influencers, which may have like between 1 and 5,000 followers. Um, and working with influencers, it can be something that you do in product trade or maybe a nominal compensation, like $100 or $200, or maybe it's something like you have a 6-month contract with them where they're producing content for you once a month on a regular basis over and over and over again. So it's definitely there's a lot of possibilities for how to work with influencers, and can really help get you over that hump of creating fresh content.
Yeah, I think one other way that we're having clients think about engaging influencers as also almost a proxy for market research, like a really cheap way to understand a niche market. If you have an influencer who already has a proven track record with that market, has made inroads with their content, has formed a relationship, they've actually been doing research for you as they've built that content. So they've kind of tested things out to see what works, see what doesn't, see what resonates with this audience. So if you can build a relationship with them, you can almost shortcut, maybe a year's worth of testing or a significant investment into market research with building a two-way relationship with an influencer and kind of understanding using their experience and their connection to their market as a way to understand kind of the psychology of your consumer, or build a little bit more empathy, or create content yourself that resonates with them more strongly. So I think that's a slightly different way to think about. Yeah, I don't think most companies are thinking about influencer marketing in that way, but I think particularly for companies who are pivoting in some way or selling to a customer that maybe they don't totally understand, maybe like the company itself is not made up of their target customer, um, then influencers can be a really helpful like window into that mindset.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a good point too, just about like consumer research and like hearing um, what influencers audiences are saying about your product and how they're reacting to it, and like even their specific language of how they talk about your products. Like that's all just really good direct like voice of the customer, voice of the consumer language that you can incorporate into future ads and other marketing material.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because they created it once on their channel doesn't mean that you can't learn from it and then kind of apply what they did to other things that you're doing to create more resonant content. So, yeah, I think it's a really interesting way to start thinking about engaging influencers. And I think also a way to look at that other brands can also be influencers with customers. Like I know, particularly for brands who really seem to resonate and build a strong community within a target market. Like I'm thinking, a friend of mine has a company called Swift Industries, and they do bicycle bags, a manufacturer of bicycle bags, and they have this very niche target audience of people who they call them like dirt bags, and I guess they um, people who like use their bikes to go camping and traveling and really like need rugged equipment for their bikes. But Swift has built such a strong relationship with this very niche target audience, that bigger brands have come to them to say like, hey, we're interested in speaking to these people, could we, create an event in common, or have you guys come on our social media and speak to our customers, or can we take over your social media and speak to your customers? And so I think whether you're the small brand with the niche, or you're the brand looking to tap into a niche, kind of understanding who's creating social content that resonates with your customer. Maybe it's an individual influencer, or maybe it's another brand, and maybe there could be a collaboration that could either help you get some insight, or help you get access, or give you some credibility with that market.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking about like what we're doing right now. I mean, this could easily be translated to like an Instagram live with two brands, like talking about both of their products and how they integrate with each other, and just like great way to expand reach and expand customers.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we're about out of time. Anything else you wanted to add to wrap up?
No, I think this was a great conversation. I liked going through our examples together to kind of share like how you think and what ads you respond to. And it was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
All right. Take care. We're going to do another one next week about, let's see, what's our topic? Brand loyalty in a virtual world. That
Sounds
sounds
juicy.
fun. All right. And for anybody who's tuning in, you can also make sure you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can be notified next week when we go live. It'll be at on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And so we hope to see you there. All right.
Thanks, Megan. See
Thanks so
ya.
much, Becky. See you next week.